Bad Teacher was a 2011 comedy starring our early 2000s Barbie, Cameron Diaz. I feel as if I don't hear this movie talked about a lot, or maybe I just haven't curated my For You page enough. Yes, it did come out in 2011, and looking back, the kids born during that year are now in middle school themselves. So the movie does have a few years on it, but to its credit, it's a fairly star-studded cast. Justin Nipple, Jason Segel, Neville, Gibby. And did anyone peep this girl playing Rue in Euphoria? I had to fact check that one to make sure my eyes weren't deceiving me. And can I just say, Lucy Punch. At one point, I thought this woman was getting typecast, but come to find out, she just likes being a messy bitch. She likes to play the evil stepsister. She wants to play trashy characters and has made a career of it. So all power to her, cause sis eats as a villain. When looking at the overall review scores, I definitely saw a trend. I'm not sure what that says about me because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie when I was a kid and have rewatched it for shits and giggles over the years. Despite the reviews, it was a success at the box office, and there was apparently an attempt made in 2014 to start a series adaptation of the movie, but it was canceled after only 3 episodes, with the rest of the episodes being released the following summer. So I will be making this video to serve as my interpretation of the film, and if it wasn't obvious, spoilers are ahead. We open with Elizabeth Halsey leaving her short-lived teaching position due to her recent engagement. It's quickly established that she has wanted nothing to do with anyone at her school, but I'm sure we've all found ourselves doing this at one point or another. Fast forward a year, and she is returning to her old job shortly after a divorce with her rich ex-husband because
I found him in bed with somebody else. You know, I walked in on him trying to fuck his dog. And my fiance, he cheated on me with his sister.
But she's sure a good pair of tits will reel in another man to take care of her. A task she is certainly not new to. It's safe to say she'd be on the exec board of the Cult of Shura if she applied. She spots a new sub at her school, Scott Delacour, who just so happens to come from a wealthy family, and he essentially becomes her next target.
Ariana, what are you doing here?
She finds that she is too broke to pay for her boob job, seeing as she just went through a divorce and got kicked out of her house, and needs ways to make quick money if she's going to get that surgery anytime soon. Her methods include seducing men at a student car wash, scamming her students' parents, and other means. Amy Squirrel, the teacher across the hall, is sick of Elizabeth's lackluster attitude towards the job, and being the type A overachieving Karen she is, feels she must put a stop to Miss Halsey's bad habits. And Squirrel does throw a wrench in Elizabeth's plans, but not through her snitching, but by dating Scott Delacour, the new rich sub. Also, the gym teacher wants to fuck Elizabeth, just to throw that in there. After realizing just how invested Scott is in his new relationship with her colleague, she becomes more fervent in her attempts to make money and get the boob job. And thus, Elizabeth sets her sights on winning the state test bonus award to the highest scoring class. So after almost a full semester of showing her students films, she suddenly resorts to assigning heavy workloads and book chapters, which I can promise would never go well in a real classroom. I don't see how that whole class was not in the principal's office that afternoon. And although her unorthodox teaching style works to an extent, it's not enough to get her that bonus. So she decides to work smarter and not harder by drugging an Illinois state test representative, then stealing an answer key of the exam. Not too long after, she triggers Amy's allergies and somehow maneuvers her way into becoming a chaperone on a field trip with Scott. Did she just give that child a brawl? Bold of her to assume that this can't backfire. Scott and her bump jeans, and Elizabeth comes back to find Squirrel has reported her for cheating the test. However, she had the means to blackmail the representative into saying it was not her. She has her roommate deliver the message, and he definitely took some liberties in doing so. But it works. The representative recants his statement, and Elizabeth informs that teachers at the school partake in drug use, knowing that Amy has taken her desk. Squirrel is framed for the drug use and transferred to Malcolm X High School. And of course, Justin Timberlake is in Elizabeth's face again after his ex-girlfriend is gone. But she decides the gym teacher is her true Prince Charming. Oh, and she becomes a counselor. And that is Bad Teacher. Throughout the film, we see Elizabeth Halsey is not only resilient, but charismatic and very observant of others. Skills she's probably obtained from prioritizing marrying a man with money. At times, she may come across as slothful, but this is a woman who knows herself very well and will put in every effort to get what she wants. So much so that she is able to help the youth around her become more comfortable with who they are and how they present themselves to the world. By the end, she finds her place at the school as a counselor, which is for the best, seeing as charisma is one of her major strengths. And throughout the film, she even gets closer to some of her students through the use of her brutal honesty and reality checks. A little bit of symbolism I saw with her outfits were her shoes. I love that we get shots of her worn down red bottom heels, sort of conveying her status as a woman once taken care of, but no longer having the means to maintain some of that image. Her outfits still eat every time, but it's just a tiny detail one may notice. Where I really get let down though is that she ended up with that gym teacher. No offense to Russell, he's great. I just think early 2000 movies really romanticized men getting women that were out of their league. And Elizabeth should have gotten the rich man that she wanted.
Basically, if I was gonna go out with you, I would be making the conscious choice to be dating a gym teacher who lives in a shack with 4 dogs.
And as much as an icon Elizabeth Halsey is, she unfortunately cannot have a seat at the exec board of the Sprinkle Sprinkle Girlies because she not only chased a man, she settled.
You need to leave!
Moving on to Scott Delacour. This man is bullshit from the start. He likes to come across as just some nice guy, but to me at least, he's pretty arrogant from the get-go. He really believes that he is the prize. Told this woman Elizabeth if she can wait on him, it will be worth it. Turns around and immediately dates the teacher across the hall from her, cheats on his girlfriend with Elizabeth, then immediately after that girlfriend breaks up with him for cheating and gets kicked out of her school, tries to make his side bitch his main. Should I even be shocked? Because I feel like I've been told this story before. It's just infuriating how he puts on this clueless persona but knows damn well what both Elizabeth and Amy are doing and what the situation is. The women even talk to him like he's a child, which I believe he prefers to be spoken to that way, so he can always have this excuse of being naive.
You are too trusting.
I am.
We also see this weird trend of him wanting to be a progressive ally, or he was trying cultural food, or it was like some type of experience for him. But ultimately, his words often come off as shallow and empty.
And we discovered this new Ethiopian restaurant.
They finally got their own cuisine. Progress.
Even though that is my interpretation of his character, there remains the possibility that Scott Delacour is somewhat as clueless and naive as he makes himself out to be, and his odd personality supports this thought. But I'm not buying it. To me, he's fickle, he's fake, and I'm moving on to the next character. Amy Squirrel. The first thing I noticed about Amy was her last name being Squirrel. And when you think of the characteristics associated with a squirrel, you think hyperactivity, maybe food, social, short attention span. And because they gave her this name, that's something you almost associate with her off the get-go, at least subconsciously, at least I did. As amicable as her first appearance is, she proves to be quite unhinged. There was a lot of chemistry within her relationship, but one could wonder if at the end of the day, she just wanted a rich man too, but just so happened to be more compatible with Scott. Squirrel does become progressively obsessed with bringing Elizabeth down, and even though she's content with dumping her boyfriend after she discovers his unfaithfulness, her spitefulness has her dead set on making sure the other woman goes to jail.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
It's continuously hinted that there was some previous noodle incident where she had a breakdown, and it makes sense why the complaints she makes about her colleague go somewhat ignored for the most of the movie. She comes off as incredibly insecure, and her impatience, pettiness, and competitiveness reveals that she herself is likely as diligent at her job due to a need of being the best. And I can imagine, in different circumstances, if met with a teacher who naturally excelled and got their class to score the highest, Squirrel would probably meet them with the same antagonistic, petty attitude she gave Elizabeth.
And I know I am not perfect. But show me the perfect teacher. You can't.
To be a little more fair, Amy did try to befriend Elizabeth initially. The woman genuinely loved her work environment and maybe felt the need to include her loner colleague, but was met with Elizabeth's own sour attitude, and that threw off their relationship. But alas, she gets herself framed for drug use and sent to an alternative school. And if one teacher at a suburban middle school worked her nerves, it'd be interesting to see how she fared in an environment of low-income high schoolers. I don't have a whole lot to say about Russell, aka gym teacher. He is just as cynical as Elizabeth, but less direct with it, which is why they go together so well. I believe he should not have been able to pull her. I'd say the reoccurring theme of this movie is being true to yourself, and this is reflected in every character we see. I suppose the quote-unquote journey for Elizabeth was her realizing that instead of chasing after a rich man she had no compatibility with, she should have been looking at a guy more aligned with her values. To me, she was just chasing the wrong rich man and should have started looking for another one as soon as she saw him playing games. Also, maintaining a job as an educator just did not play to her strengths, and it left her unmotivated, slothful, and uninterested in the role. Thankfully, by the end, she's actually able to give help to students in her own way. Squirrel genuinely seemed to take enjoyment out of being a middle school teacher, but this was overshadowed by her need to sabotage and outdo Elizabeth, going as far as flaunting her own relationship at her. Many of the other teachers seem to have at least a cordial relationship with our protagonists, seeing as they're so content with themselves. Most don't even notice or care about how Elizabeth is running her classroom. And though there could be an argument made that Amy's regard for educating children dictated her actions, in that case her goal would not have been to sabotage their teacher, but instead to educate the children. I'm not even sure if Scott Delacour knows who he is. I don't even know who he is. I feel like I've said many times before, I think he's fake. He's hiding behind that naive attitude, and half the time he's just talking just to talk. So Russell, on the other hand, was always true to himself from the beginning, which is, I suppose, why he gets the girl. I absolutely adore Lynn. Her closest colleague being the morally gray Elizabeth does not affect her actions at all. She does take little steps out of her comfort zone, but ultimately she still decides what she's comfortable with at the end of the day. And last but not least, we have the one student that Elizabeth was able to help the most, Garrett. He comes from a very jolly family that allowed him to embrace who he is, but there were still insights he needed in order to realize why his former best friend rejected him so harshly, and these were perspectives that Elizabeth was able to provide. Well, that's all I have for today. If you liked the video, share, comment, subscribe, and until next time.